Hey, Marty here. Welcome to the Sublime to the Ridiculous video blog edition. We Cosgriffs were notorious for years and years for towing our own vehicles around whenever they were broken down or whatnot. We used a process that is almost certainly illegal in most locales anymore. We would get a long tow strap or tow rope and we'd hook one car onto another and off we'd go into the wild blue yonder, towing ourselves back to our shop or the garage or wherever it needed to go. Most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, this went without incident. But I remember one time, my Uncle John's truck broke down somewhere out north of 8 Mile Road, northern suburbs of Detroit. And my Grandpa Joe went out to drag the truck back to the shop so we could repair it. Now, bear in mind, when we towed things, we didn't care what we towed them with. Any running vehicle would work. Consequently, we didn't care what was towed. Any car that needed to be towed got towed. In this particular case, my Uncle John, my grandfather's youngest son, had delivered some welders in the back of a big 16-foot flatbed truck, so not a semi, but a pretty good-sized truck, and Joe went out to pick him up in a 69 Chevy Bel Air, to drag the truck home with a 69 Chevy. Okay, so he gets out there, he hooks him up, and he's bringing him in Interstate 75. And they come to, people in the Detroit area will know this, the 9 Mile curve, kind of a big S-shaped curve. And you got to be careful negotiating it, especially when you're towing. So Joe's not being careful. And he's trying to light a cigarette, and consequently he starts to lose control of the car, and it starts drifting over toward the median, toward the shoulder. Well, Uncle John's trying to keep the truck being towed under control, but he's also in a curve, and Grandpa Joe is drifting, and Uncle John ends up drifting with him. Well, then they got slack in the tow rope, because now where the curve come around the second time, you're going downhill. And Grandpa hits the curb and jumps up in the air, and Uncle John's catching up to him, and Uncle John hits the curb and jumps up in the air, and he'd gotten so close to Joe's 69 Chevy that when he jumped up in the air, he really jumped up and pow! Pancakes Grandpa Joe's car. Well, okay, the combined weight of the two cars finally brought everything to a stop, and me poor Uncle John, he's sitting up in the cab of the truck, and of course he's looking up because the truck's up at an angle, and all I can think is, I've killed him. I've killed the old man. That's all I can think. So a few seconds passed, and he gathers himself, and he says, well, got to see exactly what happened here. And he opens the door and he climbs down from the truck and he goes around to the front of the car, and Joe had actually already gotten out of the car and was smoking. One cigarette after the other, as my Uncle John described it. He put a cigarette up to his mouth, light it, and went to ash in one long, deep draw of Grandpa Joe's breath, and he'd light the next cigarette and do the same doggone thing. I guess that was his way of calming down, and it certainly showed me Uncle John that, yes, his father was okay. He did not kill the old man. Anyway, thanks again for watching and listening. Please like, please share, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, this is Marty going from the Sublime to the Ridiculous.